The only beer that Israel allows in at the moment is the bottled beer, but even that isn't easy.
Sometimes we are 4 hours at the checkpoint. If we go through, 8 hours if we don't go through, and we might have to come back the second day to enter Israel. And sometimes we might also be turned around because Israel could be closed for a week and our customers will not have the beer there. And that's how our business can be ruined, because you got to keep constant supply for our customers.
Keep in mind that our beer is a natural beer with no preservatives or additives, so it does not resist the occupation and the checkpoint and the siege with the heat and the sunlight. If my truck has to sit at the checkpoint for 2-3 hours, the beer will get affected, because when the beer is at the brewery, it's safe. But when it's under the sunlight, I can't guarantee the quality.
So how can you do business with this kind of closures? Israel says the security, and we say the economy. We want to improve the economy, but at the same time, we want open borders.
Now, with the wall, when they built that discrimination wall, they made it harder for Palestinians to sell their goods to Israel.
Israeli products are flocking into the West Bank. You can see from milk to ice cream, to juices, to waters, all kinds of Israeli products flow, chocolates, everything flows into the West Bank, free, no tax, no checkpoints, no harassment. When we try to take a case of Taiba beer inside the Israelis, God help us.
That's what makes Oktoberfest even more enjoyable. No checkpoints, no security measures, no hassles. The beer only has to travel up the road, so the flow is free and steady.
The most important part of a rugby game is the drinking afterwards.
It may be drinking time now.
Cheers.
But just an hour before, the very first game of rugby played on Palestinian soil was taking place, as an added extra to the festivities.
Rugby with passion and fire and beer, I guess. Yeah, we're in Taiba. We should drink beer.
We're the Beit John Lions.
Yeah, and they are the Ramallah Blue Snakes. They're not Palestinian, they're foreigners, and they formed a rugby team. I'm gonna beat them.
A small crowd turned out to watch the game, though most had no idea what they were watching.
It's a little bit strange. I'm not even sure all of the rules of rugby either. But I wasn't expecting it, that's for sure.
Are you gonna watch the rugby match?
What is it?
Rugby match.
What's rugby match?
It's like football. Have you ever seen rugby before?
No.
Do you know what it is?
No.
Do you like it?
I don't know. The football, not football. Handball. No? Maybe.
Even if anyone did know what rugby was, they wouldn't have recognized it, as the rules had to be changed to better suit conditions. There's a shortage of water in Taiba, and that's because the nearby Jewish settlements turn the water off 3 to 4 days a week.
Here in Taiba, we actually sit surrounded by very different settlements. In front of us is one of the biggest settlements in the West Bank, Afra, and behind me, the settlement of Remonim was built on confiscated Taiba land. In front of us here is a brand new settlement going up, again, against all negotiations that are on paper. The Annapolis Agreement said freeze on settlements, Oslo Agreement, the roadmap, everything is talking about freezing settlements, but yet in front of our eyes, we see more and more little houses going up. See that little mountain there? The little red houses? That's the Rimonim settlement. Now that settlement is literally built on confiscated Taiba land, because even my husband has a piece of paper that says, you know, he owns property there from his great-grandfather. Nothing you can do about it, because the Israeli government comes, flattens it out, and it's Jewish housing for Jews only. And then you get the army all around to protect them and to keep them safe, so then local people, when they see that military presence and they see jeeps, armored jeeps, and the tanks, they resist. So when they throw rocks or when they resist the military presence, that's how, violent conflicts start.
I've been in that settlement once. It's like a compound, American style, everything, grass and water reservoir and nice schools and tennis courts and basketball courts.
Israel has been based on immigration. It's how they keep their population growing so that the basic, how would you say, like the population of Israelites will be more than Palestinians. So they have a demographic crisis going on inside Israel right now, that the Arabs are outpopulating them slowly. And they're very afraid of that because as Israel, the democratic state in the Middle East, how they say the only democratic state in the Middle East. Once the demographic goes that there's more Arabs than there are Israelites, then it will basically put the power in the Arab hands because they can vote for the president they want, they can vote for the prime minister they want. And that is making Israelites shit in their pants, like seriously. So that's why they've gone through different ways, incentives on having immigrants come. They'll have like, okay, if you're a Russian immigrant and you come and you live in a settlement, you will get a free house. You will get 5,000 shekels, I don't know, every month. I'm just saying, hypothetical, thinking on my own head facts of what incentives that Israelis give to immigrants to come. They have benefits, serious benefits.
Most new immigrants to Israel are Jewish. The government does provide a lot of benefits for people that come to Israel, I guess because when Israel was established, all the immigrants that were coming were refugees, and so they came with nothing, and they had to provide some sort of infrastructure for them, some sort of basic necessities. And now they still have it, although probably now not so much the people that are coming are refugees, but they're more Western, a bit more educated people, but they still provide a lot of incentives for them to come here. They want, I guess, Jewish people to come to Israel because it's their homeland. And they want, they want them to feel part of it, so they help out financially.
So you're basically moving people into land that's not yours, and then over the years the population will grow and grow. And of course, Palestine has no defense against this. We have no military, and our public view in different countries are as terrorists. So we have barely any defense to stop this from happening. Of course, Israel breaks every international law with no consequence. And you think, if settlements keep on coming, what's going to happen to Palestine? Will there be a Palestine? And the future is bleak, but of course there's hope.
And with hope, hopefully comes an open mind. Despite the hostility between Palestinians and settlers taking their land, Oktoberfest is clearly for everyone, and Israelis and Jews are welcome.
Sure, I'm Jewish. But only by virtue of my mother's vagina.
I moved to Israel probably about 3 years ago.
I'm forced to be Jewish. No matter what I do in my life, I was socialized in a Jewish community, and I've always been told that like the people who hate Jews will always hate me. Whatever.
I grew up Jewish in a Jewish home, went to a Jewish school, and I learned about Israel all my life. And it was only when I was about 18 that I came here for my first time, and I absolutely loved the place.
Am I hated here? I don't think so. I mean, predominantly. I mean, I hate myself a little, so yes.
I'm Jewish. I'm not Israeli, but I'm Jewish. I know I'm not Israeli, but I'd consider myself more Israeli than British, even though I'm not Israeli at all. But like, coming here is like, for me, I'm doing something from that side of the country. Not actually technically having an Israeli passport or anything, but like I just feel like meeting them and it just kind of breaks down in the tiniest way, like the little kid on the street being like, hey, I'm like, hey. We're like friends.
There's supposed to be a perpetual state of conflict between two people, and it's supposed to be dealt with politically, but like there's all these other like aspects of relationships that aren't being like considered at all, and I think beer is one of them. You know? If everyone went to the political table slightly slurred, well then.
If beer is the great social lubricant, then Nadim is leading the way as its proud diplomat.
Beste Bier von der Welt, beste Bier von Welt.
The best beer.
Beste Bier von Welt. Sister.
In the whole world.
Das ist meine Freund, beste Bier von Welt.
I'm his friend.